Julian Bashir wants to skip a rock in the Great Link. Garrick plays matchmaker, and a Jem Hadar pulls on Chief O'Brien's chest hairs. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
What's up? What's up?
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine's final episode of Season 4, Broken Link, directed by our good friend, and by our good friend, I mean that sarcastically, Mr. Les Landau, because I've never met him and because he's probably traumatized by Cirroc and Aaron.
He's actually a really good guy. I mean, he's like a fun, smiley type of guy. Only when he's pushed to the far limits does he start to change character. But he's otherwise a really nice guy. Shout out to Les.
Oh, that's awesome. Hope to meet him someday then. Story by George A. Brozak. Not what you thought it was the first time, Cirroc. Teleplay by our good friends, really, Mr. Robert Hewitt Wolf and Ira Stephen Bear. This originally aired June 17th, 1996. Those were the days.
Those were the days, yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Interesting that this story was by somebody else, because this seems like it could have been an in-house written
It felt
story,
like
right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. The fact that somebody submitted this idea, I guess the big thing was, the connection to the link, which I felt like I'd seen before, but it wasn't. It was the Trill episode with Jadzia, where she was kind of, wasn't it?
Yeah, where she goes swimming in the milk or something.
Yeah. So I thought I had seen this before, but then I kind of double checked on that.
Well, Odo has
visited
there.
The
yeah, right. So yeah, there's definitely
but
something
at that
there.
Time it was like a cave. I don't remember it being like this, like the sea, like this giant.
Right. Well, the cave was where they had the officers hidden underground, on this homeworld, on this planet. But yeah, let's definitely talk more about this, because there are definitely a few things there. But before we do, I do want to make sure that we let everybody know to go check us out on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/the7th-rule. Check us out, become part of the team, join in the fun, share it with your friends. You can join us on our show. You can join our awesome monthly roundtables or weekly free-for-alls. Lots of good stuff. Be part of the team and get IMDb credits and credits in the end of every episode. It's really cool stuff. Plus, it helps keep us going. And Cirroc's got a really cool purple light in that lamp. I mean, that's production value, you guys. That's from our patrons. That's from our patrons. But anyway, please check us out on patreon.com/the7th-rule, and please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on all of this content. Anyway, let's have some fun and talk about this episode. That planet, huh? Oh, here's the planet right here. And this was when Odo had his famous nude scene.
Yeah. I'll reserve my nude scene comments for later. I didn't. I was like, somebody cover the guy with a blanket or something. He's like a newborn baby sitting there, but not as cute.
Yeah, but just as vulnerable.
But just as vulnerable, yeah. I wondered, like, as I was watching it, I was wondering if, like, they shaved his body for that, because he seemed extra smooth, almost like ET's. But I won't get too far into that.
Yeah, maybe that's one of the things of the founders is they just don't simulate body hair. Yeah, because he never grows a beard or anything like that. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I was like, wow, he's smooth like that, like literally like a newborn baby. I thought that was interesting. But this episode, like I said, it was kind of, as you described the story being somebody submitting the story. It seems like this is something that they could have easily had just you know, whipped up themselves. It wasn't too far out there as like a one-off episode where it's telling this really ridiculous kind of story. But I get the main gist of what was probably pitched, because we've had a lot of writers on that have talked about their pitches and how the writers just attach themselves to one concept of that pitch and maybe just one idea of it that they really extract, and they go take that and run with it. But maybe the idea originally was Odo becomes human, right? I mean, it could be reduced to that.
Yeah, that's my thinking too. And this is just a guess, but we have heard, many, many times over that Star Trek was always very generous in how they hand out credits. Not saying that people didn't earn those writing credits, but that the writers would basically say, hey, if we end up even using an element that has been pitched to us in the past, we're going to credit the person with a story credit, which is very honorable and a very cool thing to do. So, and you're right, the very final episode of season 4 is usually an in-house thing, especially when Robert Hewitt Wolf is the one writing it. And Ira Stephen Bear, who is the showrunner. It makes you feel like they probably took a couple elements that were pitched to them because they already kind of had the overarching story of what's going on. And then this gentleman pitched them some cool ideas. I mean, this is just a guess, or maybe he pitched the entire episode and they're like, that's perfect for the 4th season, end of the 4th season, whatever it was. And this guy, I'm just looking him up. He had this one episode story by on Deep Space Nine, and he has one story by episode for Star Trek Voyager, False Prophets, also in 96. So that was a good year for him.
Yeah. He double dipped. So I didn't recognize that Les Landau directed this episode. Mm-hmm. So, there were certain elements of it that, just the idea of going down to this pool, because I was wondering where it was shot, and when they had the over the shoulder kind of looking out into the water behind Sisko and Bashir, I was thinking, where is that? Was that a green screen? Is that actually on location and they just altered the texture of the film and the colors of the backlight? So I was wondering, which one of the two that I was looking at.
Yeah, it seemed like a green screen kind of thing, but I mean, that's what I assumed. But I did find it, speaking of, while we're talking about this planet here, I mean, there are a lot of really interesting things. Number one was that they're just on this tiny little island, right? Whereas I think when they visited the planet before, they were like more on like a coastline because they were able to go underground and find caves and go out and explore and do all these other things. But this time they landed on just this little nugget, just this little thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, we could be in the link for days. And Sisko says, we'll wait. And my first thought is, where are they going to poop? Like, you're going to, yeah, that was my first thought.
My first thought.
When Sisko says, we'll wait for days, I'm like, I feel like Bashir's first thought was, speak for yourself, dude. I got to poo at some point. I'm not just going to be like, you can't poop in the link.
Did they commit to that? They committed to waiting before they knew the space, like the size, the parameters of the space. I think they said they'll wait.
But then she said, no, she said it could be days, even weeks or something like that. And Sisko was like, we'll wait. And I was I looked right at Bashir, like, what are you gonna, Bashir's probably thinking like, what? We can't wait up in the Defiant? We can't just go.
Yeah. And not only that, but they didn't bring, for me, if I'm going to do a weight thing, then okay, we're going to bring our little tent, or some kind of little ration kit,
some Cliff bars, yeah, water,
Cliff bar, some nuts, some mixed nuts, trail mix. You're gonna set up a little fire. I don't know. You're gonna be prepared to be there for a while, so you'll bring some actual rations and stuff. Especially, when you saw how small that space was, it was like, okay, this is weird. and I would not wait there for days. But
I wouldn't either.
But in the overall of it, though, one of the things that I got that really resonated for me was the fact that the crew was so willing to do so much to be there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, this was like people really being there for Odo. They could have easily written him off and said, all right, your people want you. We're out of here. You deal with it. Call us if you need anything. But instead, they were like, no, we're going to sit here and we're going to be here. It's almost like somebody sitting by your bedside when you're terminally ill and, spending the days in the hospital with you by your bedside, instead of just like, all right, well, call me if anything goes wrong, or good luck in the hospital. So I thought that was just admirable of what Sisko and the rest of the crew does for Odo. Like, they're actually risking their own lives because,
Completely.
Technically they are super vulnerable. They let themselves be basically blindfolded as a ship and led anywhere. They could have been led into a trap. They could have been, surrounded by Jem'Hadar ships. So they took a big leap of faith with that.
Yeah, and also, I'm kind of skipping around here, but I do want to also mention the moment between Quark and Odo, when these guys are the cutest freaking guys. When Quark is like, oh, while you're gone, boy, my smuggling is going to go up 60%. It's going to be so great. Oh boy, while the cat's away, the mice will play. I can't hurry up and get out of here. And Odo's like, I'll be back to get you. And so Quark gets serious. He says, so you will be back. And he says, count on it. And it's just, and then Quark says, I will. And Quark is just being such a little sweetie in that scene. It's just adorable. I love it. It's really good writing, really good acting there.
There were a lot of moments like that in this episode, and I do want to credit Ira and his team because they are so good at bringing these moments to life in these ways. And the other time I remember, for example, was Garrick in the opening scene when he's initially bringing Odo down there. Garrick has got this master plan, to hook him up. And the interplay between them, I think Odo says something, the next time you call me, it better be for a crime. It better be to report a crime or something. And then and Garrick's line is just perfect. His comeback was perfect. He's like, well, now that you mention it, I just witnessed a crime.
That was one of the coolest. That I wrote that down too. I was like, there's so many lines that I've forgotten. And that, and some of those, that's a crime that I forgot that line, because he's like, now that you mention it, I believe I just witnessed a crime. And I was like, oh, ooh.
What a comeback. What a comeback.
Big win. Yeah.
Big win. And I just love it. I just love the dialogue. There was another moment there in this episode with Worf and Dax. And I think Worf says, is she always this?
He says, did her previous host argue this much? And he goes, he was worse. And Dax says, oh, thanks, I think.
Yeah, thanks for the compliment, I think, right? Or something like that. So the way they write those scenes, to me, is just makes it golden. It's just this subtle conflict, this air of trickery. Even when Garrick is asking Sisko to join in on the fun, right? Sisko's like, the reason for him there is because he's such a great bullshitter. Just go and come along and use your BSing to entertain Odo, and that is in itself is just is a fantastic kind of reason for Sisko to come to the conclusion that Garrick needs to come along. I just like that.
Right. They're basically saying we're going to pull out all the stops to save this guy, even if that means letting on a Cardassian just to keep his mind stimulated and keep him motivated to stay alert. And of course, Garrick loved the idea. What I got the quote actually here. He says, just give me a seat next to Odo's bed, and I promise you, I'll conjure up enough innuendos, half-truths, and bald-faced lies about my so-called career in the Obsidian Order to keep the constable distracted for days. If there's one thing Cardassians excel at, it's conversation.
Yes.
Ah, what a magical line. And of course, the way Garrick delivers it.
The way he delivers
like
it.
honey. It's perfect.
It's perfect. And I mean, there's just, when you match it with all of everybody's delivering it like honey. I mean, Quark and Odo, just their scenes, they're both hitting the notes exactly the way it should be hit. When Sisko, when he goes into his mode and hits the notes that he's supposed to hit, I just love it. I actually like the moment where Bashir calls Garrick off. Garrick sees the founder and he sees the opportunity to talk to her, and he's just waiting. He's been waiting for the moment.
Yeah.
And Bashir's like, it can wait, Garrick. It can wait. And it's just really good writing. Once again, I mean, they could have just, let him approach her at that moment, but instead they pulled back on it a little bit.
Which does bring us to when Garrick actually does speak with the founder. And that was a devilishly good, it's like, I can't think of the right word, but it really cut deep. She basically eviscerated Garrick and his hopes, but also gave us insight into the changelings, where she's like, not only are they dead, but you're dead. All of you are dead. The Cardassians are over the second you attacked us. And she said it with such contempt. You know what I mean? Like with just such like, you don't mean anything to me right now. That's what I put in my notes. Like an exterminator. Like they want to exterminate the Cardassians. Like they're bugs, they're vermin, they're just going to wipe them out. It's delicious.
And what else is also delicious is the way Andy Robinson, responds in that moment when he gets that information. He says something like, "How delightful to meet you," or it was such a pleasure to talk to you. The way he says that, even when he's receiving that kind of information, he still maintains his his aura of suspicion or ambiguity that you just don't know what he's up to, right?
Right, but he definitely does react, he kind of does like a, ooh. He does like to show a little reaction, but then compose himself and be diplomatic again, or like sneaky again. Yeah. But he's thinking like he does it a lot with his eyes too. Like he'll kind of like look to the side, like, and when he does that, he's thinking, I got to make a few phone calls right quick. But let me finish this conversation here. But I got to make a couple phone calls.
Yes. Like that's some information that I have used for. So he is so good at playing those moments. But I have to say that the founder was as cold as I've ever seen anybody, and that includes Kai Opaka.
Kai Wynn, yeah.
Kai Wynn, yeah. She when she delivers that line to him, that's as cold as I've ever seen any character say something to somebody. Like not only are they dead, but you're dead.
Yeah, it's a foregone conclusion. You sealed your fate. Why are we even having this conversation?
And I really don't even want to take the time to explain it to you, but I want to just kill you right now with these words, so that your bubble is completely burst and that you have no hope for any future.
Right.
So she wants
nothing to do with him or any Cardassians. but she still has the tiniest little bit of want to hurt him or teach him a lesson enough, just enough for her to be like, you know what, if you really want to know, let me be as cold as ice and just rip you apart right now. Because, she could have just been like, get him away from me, Jem'Hadar, but she actually wanted a tiny bit, like there was a little bit of sadism in there. Like she wanted to be like, you know what, I may enjoy this just a tiny bit, just to, flex, just to give a little flex,
Oh yeah. No, she enjoyed it. I think she said, you're Cardassian, right? And there was like, like she's like calling him out, like real stoic, like, oh, well, you would understand what I'm talking about. I'm going to let you know that you guys made the worst mistake of your lives. And this is what's in store for you.
Mm-hmm. Tell your friends.
Have a nice day. We'll never talk again. Bye.
Right. And this of course leads us to another really good scene. I mean, there are some great moments for Garrick, which is when Worf catches Garrick trying to basically destroy the Founders' entire homeworld and existence. And I don't know about you, but my first thought was, ooh, you done messed up now, Aaron, or whatever. like, oh boy. But then when he starts talking, you go, he's right. He's totally right, isn't he?
Yeah, I wrote the same thing down in my notes. I says, does Garrick have a point? Does Garrick have a valid point?
Totally, yeah.
But what was interesting in his monologue there was a time when he says, yes, they'll die, Sisko and Bashir he was talking about, and so will we. Like, so he knew that this was also a suicide mission. Right. So it wasn't like he was just willing to risk other people's lives, right? And then run away cowardly. He was actually willing to die himself for this.
Right, which shows that how good his intentions are. He's not doing it because he just hates the Founders and wants to kill people. He's doing it because he's saying, yes, we'll all die, but it is worth it to save the entire Alpha Quadrant. And you realize that for one of the first times ever, Garrick is trying to save the world. He's trying to save the universe. He's trying to do something for the greater good of people around the quadrant that he's never even met. Like he's actually being a hero in his mind. Really, it was really good insight on Garrick. It was kind of the first time that just out of nowhere, he's trying to risk everything to, for the greater good.
Yes, and you see, because Garrick is always pretty much, at least from the most part, he comes across as a person who's motivated by his own self gain, right? So it's all about what do I get out of it? What does it mean to me? How can I use this for my own advantage? Mm-hmm. But in this particular instance, yes, he actually shows that he has this ability to think outside of himself and think for the greater good and what is, the best thing or the right thing to do. Now, it brought up such a great question, because you think about these kinds of things, if you could go back in time and, for example, take Hitler out, would you be justified in doing so? Wouldn't you say, hey, I'm saving this many millions of lives, and yeah, I'll be a murderer, or I'll be convicted, or I'll get killed in the process. But
yeah.
But the world doesn't suffer.
Right. But a gigantic but there.
Right. So Garrick has a point, actually, because I almost wanted him to be successful at his intent,
The show would kind of be over, but hey, actually we do have to jump to our break right now, but let's talk about this a little bit more on the other side, because there's a lot to this, and it was a really powerful moment. And I think it did the same thing to both of us, where we're kind of like, yeah, you're right, Garrett. So we'll take a super quick break and we'll be right back on the seventh rule. Everybody, welcome back to the seventh rule with Cirroc Lofton. He just took a quick snack. I didn't know you were going to be able to say hello. So real quick, here are the trivioids that may or may not have made the cutting room floor. Garrick plays matchmaker. Shalon Arroyo, I think that was her name. Shalon Arroyo owns the Celestial Cafe at the Promenade. Odo's mass and density are in a state of fluctuation. Gowron demands that the Federation leave the Arcanus system. Sisko successfully predicts how many times Kira sneezes. Kira delivers the criminal activity report to cheer Odo up, which was another great, cute moment. Odo confronts an alien about missing phalangian diamonds. Garrick says he was once a gardener on Romulus. Oh, mention Romulus, I get to officially wear my Romulan ale shirt. That's the rule.
Okay.
And Jem'Hadar pulls on Chief O'Brien's chest hairs. Bashir wants to skip Iraq and the Great Link. Did you notice that? Like when they transport it onto the ship and the Jem'Hadar grabs Bashir like this, right? Which you would think is not going to hurt, but Bashir's like, So I'm thinking, man, he's got a handful of chest hairs. That's got to be it, because otherwise, I don't know why he's screaming.
I only thought about that after you kept saying it here as we were doing that show, because I was wondering why is he screaming like that? But yeah, I guess it was chest hairs. I guess he's got a bunch of chest hairs caught up in that t-shirt grab.
I mean, it's going to be painful. But anyway, let's finish up the conversation that we were having about Garrick, because it did remind me also of a Next Generation episode where it was with the Borg, and Picard basically has a chance to wipe out the Borg forever. But he would have to sacrifice the life of this one Borg drone, and you basically use that Borg drone as an unwilling and unknowing suicide bomber kind of thing, right? And send him over and destroy the Borg cube, and he doesn't do it. And then, of course, afterwards, the Admiral reprimands Picard, and he's like, or was it she? I think it was probably Admiral Nechayev. She says, let me be clear. The next time you have a chance to rid the Federation of a mortal enemy, you can do it, because he was being like, he was playing the nice guy. He was like, I don't want to condemn this poor guy to death just to wipe out his people. So anyway, this reminded me of that, just in a way where Garrick was kind of like that Admiral, where he was like, hey, it doesn't matter the cost. Compared to saving the entire Alpha Quadrant, it's no contest, right?
I mean, he's 100% right. It reminds me of I think it was Minority Report, where they would have the pre-crime detectors. They would know if you were going to do a crime.
Oh, right? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's an old Tom Cruise movie, but essentially it's based in the future, and the police knew when you were about to commit a crime as opposed to after you had committed a crime.
Interesting.
And so they would, arrest you beforehand. This reminds me of that concept in the way that they are about to create a war. They haven't done it yet, right? So it's not completely a done deal. They haven't exterminated the Alpha Quadrant yet, but they're headed there. They're headed to the direction of making everybody pay. And if we look at the past history, like we saw in the episode before this, when those people were dying of that illness, they were born with this kind of systemic disease that created the lesions on their face, and they would go. Remember that episode?
Yeah.
It was just a couple episodes back.
The quickening.
The quickening, exactly. And they are examples of the wrath of the Dominion, right? The Dominion literally
Exactly.
showed no mercy on them, and generationally pronounced them to this death, right? So generation after generation, they're all dying. So they have already proven themselves to be worthy of destruction. Like, we need to get rid of these guys.
Right.
So I actually was siding with Garrick in that instance. Another thing I thought was interesting about that scene was the fight that he put up against Worf. I thought he put up a pretty formidable fight up against
Or
Worf.
a Taylor.
Exactly. You fight well for it, Taylor.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty good fight. Like, he was really, he was holding his own for a second against Worf. Had to like pull out some of his tricks and really like.
They love like the chops and the and then Garrick's just on the ground, but it's like, Garrick, you can get up and keep fighting, but Garrick's like, I've had enough. I'm good. But Garrick, to save the Alpha Quadrant, maybe you should get back up and keep fighting. No, that hurt.
Hey, he put up a fight. He tried. And his line there, another just well-written kind of thing. He gets busted. You're trying to arm the photon torpedoes. Yes, and I would arm, and I'd also arm the
phasers.
The phasers if I could. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It was such a good comeback for. It was like, yeah, you didn't bust me doing anything, bro. I'm not only am I going to tell you what I'm doing, but I wish I could do more. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because at that point he's caught in the act. So he's like basically saying, not only that, but here's everything I was trying. Like, he's owning it at this point. He's saying, I mean, if you're going to bust me for that, you might as well bust me for everything, including trying to save the Alpha Quadrant, by the way. So maybe you might want to step aside. Yeah,
step aside or help me out, because there's going to be a lot of lives lost in the very near future.
Right. And that was probably set off by the conversation he had with the female changeling. Like, it became maybe a little bit more personal when she said, I'm going to wipe out all the Cardassians. So while he's telling Worf, I'm trying to save the entire Alpha Quadrant, he might be really thinking, I'm trying to save all of Cardassia, but also your people too. But I'm trying to save Cardassia is what I'm trying to do.
Because I become a hero once that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there is still personal gain for him out of it. But I do want to say, one of the things that kind of surprised me was the willingness for Sisko to allow Odo to join the link, right? Because I was thinking, didn't we have a whole episode where the founders were shape-shifting and infiltrating Starfleet Academy, I think it was, or Starfleet
headquarters.
Right?
Yeah, they had 4 changelings on Earth completely wreaking havoc. So we already know that these guys are a major problem here.
Yeah, and so the only hesitation I have in this episode is knowing that the changelings are that clever and they send 4 guys and they can take over your whole planet if they want. They could easily deliver a fake Odo back to Sisko and Bashir.
Totally.
Right? He could easily look like Odo. He's a shapeshifter too, but it's not really Odo. So I was
That's
thinking,
true.
That would be a clever plan for the founders to infiltrate DS9 and have their guy on the inside.
Right, and that's kind of how they ended the episode, was saying, Odo's saying, hey, which was, I thought was a really smart way to do it, when he said, I could tell they were trying to hide certain names and certain events and certain things from me. But upon seeing Gowron's face, I think he was definitely something that was flashing there. And I think he is a founder, and they were trying to keep that from me. And, so presumably they've somehow figured out how to infiltrate the Klingon High Council at the highest level, So they're probably doing, and we've seen them already do that similarly, on Earth. So yeah, they're everywhere at this point. They can do almost any kind of, they can win wars without actually going to war now.
I mean, yeah, obviously they could, because they can infiltrate to the best of anybody's ability. If you can make people believe that they are talking to somebody else, then it's so easy to infiltrate. It's so easy to take over. You could easily be the president, the prime minister, the leader, the general, whatever it requires. So yes, they have immense amount of power, and that's once again brings up why Garrick has a valid point in trying to do what he wants to do, and perhaps which is why the reason Sisko doesn't punish him so hard, right? Because I think the punishment was like 6 months or something.
Yeah, didn't seem like anything. I thought the same thing. Like, I mean, he tried to do genocide. He tried to commit genocide, right. But they're like, well, we are going to need a tailor still. So,
I mean, who else is going to fit Odo
for
his clothes? Because he can't just make the clothes now. He actually has to get somebody to make the clothes for him. So yes, they will be needing a tailor.
But how cool is it that now Odo gets to experience hunger and eating food? Like he's gonna be like, oh my God, this is so good. I had no idea prune juice or whatever it happens to be. He's gonna be like, dude, this is the best. And they're gonna be like, oh, you should really try some Tabasco sauce or whatever. Oh, is it good? Oh yeah, just guzzle. Oh boy, you're gonna love it, Odo. Yeah, go to town.
Oh yeah, I could just see him now from the rest, just always excusing whatever he does by saying sorry first time. He could fart at an awkward moment and
be like,
just look around. Hey, first time. Sorry, is that not?
I didn't know it was coming. Kind of like when he first met. What was that? Shalon Arroyo. When she walks away and they're like, what a woman, right? She is so pretty, isn't she? And Odo was like, oh boy, she sure is pretty. And then, he reacted very strongly to something completely unrelated.
But it certainly looked, it looked like it tailed in on that. He did go into his herky-jerky mode.
He did react in a very peculiar way. When he was...
And actually, Garrick says a nice line there that I like the way sometimes when he talks, it sounds really poetic.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a line where he says in the beginning when he was referring to the woman that he was trying to hook Odo up with, he's, a thing of beauty is a joy forever.
Mm.
And it's just like, I don't know, it's like one of those things that you get, it's like a fortune cookie. He talks like a fortune cookie.
Yeah.
And I love that about Garrick, his little fortune cookie moments.
It's true though. He does every once in a while just kind of throw these things. He's like a poet, he's out there he's a dreamer. And he's super creative, and he's just like, God, I wish I could have, kind of like how Quark is always like, I should have just been selling, ammo and guns. I blew it. Garrick is thinking, God, I should have just been a poet. I should have.
I mean, he's great with words, and he's great with his imagination. He actually would make a great writer. Jake should be trying to recruit Garrick to be writing some of his stories down, because he can make up stories with the best of them. Did you notice what is the official terminology now when something is like an Albanian?
I know. I wrote it. So I wrote that down too, because it literally is every single episode.
We need to invent the terminology for it so we can actually call it out.
Right.
I think you like NAMS. The NAMS, right?
Right. So what I've got, the placeholder right now is just the Trek naming game, which is, it's just a generic term. And for those of you that are just hearing us say this for the first time, listen in. For those of you that are hearing this for the 10th time in a row, don't get mad, give us an answer. They're like, you always say this. But Star Trek, the way they name things is they just have an alien or planet with an IAN at the end, and then a word that we recognize, like an Albanian fox, or in this case, it was Incarian wool, or sometimes it's Borvarian mud sloth, or whatever, and that's the formula.
Yeah, and this one had two actually, because it had the Phalangian diamonds.
Right. Phalangian diamonds and Incarian wool, and they used them both.
And they used them both, and I thought, wow, that's whatever we come up with. I think it has to use that same principle in the title of it. So, for example,
yes,
you know what I mean,
like it's Trekkian naming.
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
That's exactly what it is. A Trekkian wordplay.
Trekkian etymology, but that is like the study of how words are created, their roots. What's the study of just names? Trekkian nomers.
Oh yeah, or antonyms.
Antonym Montgomery.
That's a good one. That's very good.
It's better than the one I almost said, but I chose not to. It was when you mentioned that other episode. I was going to call it the Bis Quickening.
Oh God.
See,
okay.
Different reaction.
The Bis Quickening. No, I'm not gonna extend that, because I had some stuff. I thought it was another interesting moment here in this episode where Bashir is diagnosing Odo, and he says, "We don't know what it is. You might be going through menopause."
Yeah, and his reaction, and then he says, I'd suggest you don't mention that one any further, or something like that. Yeah. What did he say? Oh, Cirroc, are you still there? Did we lose you?
I can hear you.
Oh, I hear you. Okay. What did he say? He said, just looking to try to see what. Oh, well, trying to see exactly what he said there. Okay.
Which one? What do you mean? Which part?
Just when he mentioned the menopause thing. Oh, yeah. He says, Odo says, that's an interesting theory, Doctor. One that I suggest you keep to yourself.
Yes. I like that. I like that interplay. Actually, there were moments, and you mentioned this earlier, with the Kira bringing the crime report to Odo when he was in,
So nice, so cute. Yeah.
They were really small moments, but it lets you know kind of like, I feel the camaraderie of the cast and crew at this point. I feel like they've gotten to know each other very well. So everybody is playing this relationship. They're the dynamics of the relationships have formed now and solidified, right?
Right. And what I liked most about that is that a more novice writer would show Odo being touched by the sentiment, by being like, hey, that was really sweet of you. That was a nice sentiment, or, I appreciate that. But they didn't really show that. Instead, what they showed was Odo kind of being excited, like, oh, wow, this is so good. And letting us have that moment of saying, wow, that's really cute. Like she knows how to cheer him up, even because he doesn't really think like, oh, wow, what a gesture. What he's just like, oh, awesome. All right, I got the duty roster, or I got the criminal report, and so this moment is for us, and that's really skilled writing, I thought. Yeah.
Absolutely. And like I say, the interplay and just the level of comfort that the characters are starting to have with each other, the way that He mentions the menopause, and you say keep it to yourself. The Quark and Odo interplay when he says you are coming back. These very subtle moments. There was a moment where Garrick says something to Sisko, and Sisko says, "Make sure you remember that," right? And he says it like, make sure you remember that, that's the way it goes.
Remember it, write it down, take a picture. I don't give a.
And there's one more thing that when I watch Odo, that it's a one sound thing that he does that I realize in this episode that I realize he does it all the time. He does a huh.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. And he did it in this episode. He did it's just a huh. And I love it, because it's Odo's thing. I don't see,
right.
No other characters really pulling that off. That's Odo's thing. It's almost like I don't believe you. I would laugh. It's not funny. It can mean so many different things, right?
It's almost just him.
It's an exclamation mark.
Establishing authority or super, just basically saying like, it's a no word answer of basically still saying, I'm in charge, or I'm in control of the situation, or it's just like some kind of, yeah, you're right. It's like a non-verbal, reminder that he's on top of it, or that he doesn't believe it, or that he's in charge, or something like that.
Yeah. It could mean so many things, and it really puts an exclamation. It's like, that's my response. I don't have words for whatever you're saying, but like you told me something ridiculous. You told me even a joke maybe, or whatever it is, but that's my response, and you can take from it whatever you want. It's really kind of ambiguous and vague, but it also has that level of authority, like you say, where it's like there's something authoritative about it, like he's the boss that gets to make the
right. And he's acknowledging to the person, I heard you, I'm just not going to say anything, but I'm still going I don't want you to think that I didn't hear you.
Yep.
This is my response, and that's all you're going to get out of that. That's it. That's the extent of it.
And that's uniquely Odo. And I just saw it in this episode. It stood out to me, and I realized that I've been watching him do that this whole time without really writing down these and seeing where he places them, right? Because he's placing them in strategic moments. So if I go back and watch it, I'll be looking for where he puts those because I'm sure that they're important. The other thing that I thought was great was the end, where Sisko kind of comes up to Odo and says, "Hey man, maybe you shouldn't rush to get back to work, and take it easy." And and Odo snaps on Sisko, which is like the first time I've seen him really snap on Sisko. And he was like, "No, I need this," or something, "No, I got to do this." And then he realizes he snapped, and kind of explains like, "I feel trapped in this body." And I thought that was another good scene where he kind of opens up a little bit.
Yeah, and what I liked about that, the end of that part, was when Sisko says, "You're a damn fine security officer, maybe even the best in the entire quadrant." And Odo, Odo's very prideful. So when he says, "You're maybe the best damn security officer in the quadrant," Odo doesn't say, "Thank you, sir." He doesn't say, "Oh, no." He goes, "Maybe." Like it was a very Han Solo answer. "I love you. I know." And he says, "You're maybe the best in the whole quadrant." "Maybe." Like, boom. Love that. That was great.
I love that note. And I also like the fact that Odo opens up a little bit about feeling uncomfortable. We didn't touch on the fact that the founders left him with that face.
Yeah.
Like they changed him back to a human, or made him a human, or a solid, as they call it.
Yeah.
But they left him with that face, almost like a scar, or
it's like a branding. Yeah.
Yeah, just to show you how cruel the founders are. Once again, they're just that cruel.
They want people to know who they are and to fear them. They don't want to be benevolent. They don't want to be known as the people that forgive. They don't want to be the people that know, like, yeah, they're tough, but they're just an old softy on the. They want everybody to know that you don't F with the founders.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah. No, I lost the thought. It'll come back to me.
All right. Well, I'll throw in a couple quick things. We only have a couple minutes left, but we'll follow it up in the free-for-all as well. One was that Worf, just like in The Next Generation, he was always getting shot down. We did have a very quick Worf shot down moment when on the bridge, there's the Jem'Hadar everywhere, and all Worf says is, "Sir." And Sisko says, "Not now, Mr. Worf." That was it. There was just that one moment, and I was like, "Oh man, Worf, you done Worf wrong, man." He's just always. He thought he left that behind in The Next Generation of always getting shot down, but nope. All he said was "sir," and he's like, "Nope, not now." The other thing is, or maybe we'll just save the NAMs for the free for all, because we did mention that we have NAMs, but we didn't actually get to the NAMs. So we'll save those for the free for all because we did have a few there. Do you have any final thoughts before we jump over to the other side?
Just that I think, Garrick is fantastic. I think Odo is fantastic in this episode. I enjoyed watching it. It kind of went by quickly.
Yeah.
And that's really one of the main indicators for me of if the episode's good or not, if how fast it goes by. So it went by pretty quickly. I just want to say really quickly though, that when Kira was sneezing all over the place, I just kept thinking, that's not COVID friendly, right?
No, definitely not. She was not even, she was just going hog wild with that thing.
Yeah, she was just spraying everybody. So I did think that really brief.
All right. This was a good episode. We know because it went by very quickly too. So very quickly, it's time for the nitpick. Damn it. If Odo is having such a hard time keeping his form, why don't they just transport him around in a bucket? Why are you torturing him, forcing him to stay in that bit? Put him in a bucket and take your test there.
Whoa. That's really real.
Now Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
Oh, wow. I've been off on the last one. I think I missed it by a whole full point. I want to get it closer on this one. 7.5, 7.5.
The fans have rated it an 8.3.
Wow.
It's hard to get in the mind of the fans. And they do like memorable episodes that leave you with a cliffhanger or that have monumental, changing moments, Anyway, we're going to take a super quick break. We're going to flip over on the other side with the free-for-all. We do want to give a very hearty thank you and shout out to Carmen Shamwell, PJ Tomas, TJ Jackson-Bey, Bill Victor Arucan, Yvette Blackmon, Homer Frizzell, Eve England out in Wales, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Dr. Susan B. Gruner, Tim Baum, and Titus Mohler, our good friends. We love them, and we're very fortunate to know them. We're going to see you on the other side on the free-for-all of the seventh rule.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the seventh rule. It's time now for the free-for-all, and today with us we have Marie Segal. We have Malissa Longo.
Yay!
Yay, exactly right. Give it up. We have Scott Jensen.
Woo.
Timothy Baum,
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Ryan T. Husk,
Boom.
Cirroc Lofton,
Boom, boom.
and I'm Homer Frizzell. Let's get to it.
Ooh.
A man with the baseball player name.
Aw,
At least half of
yeah.
one. Yeah.
Homer Frizzell
Yeah.
totally sounds like somebody that played for like, the Yankees in 1912 or something,
So
I'd buy that
Homer
card.
Lofton would totally be a baseball player's name.
Hmm.
But
Yes.
the Frizzell, I don't know if there were that many.
Mm.
I think it works.
Okay,
So
thank you. I'll go with it.
this is what we're going to start with. We got a little overflow from the episode because there's so much to talk about on this fun episode. The first thing is the NAMs. We got
yeah.
we got a few NAMs. There were 4 NAMs by my count. Can anybody name the NAMs? Bless you, Kira.
Crap.
Um,
One.
Nams.
Oh my gosh.
I can name one.
Let's see. Go ahead.
I have Dr. Mora.
Yes.
Yes, very good.
I know
That was the
2.
toughest one. Yeah.
I have 2,
All right.
Keiko and Molly.
Yep. And yep.
Good.
What Keiko and Molly, when were they mentioned?
When Kira and Keiko were talking in
Oh,
Miles'
yes.
quarters, and Miles walks in, and Molly starts giggling.
O'Brien was
That's a weird
telling
story.
them about that story,
funny.
and he was just talking about how
Oh,
Right.
right.
how Kira and Keiko were talking jive. Now the
when
fourth
in doubt,
one,
Guess
the,
Curzon.
the fourth one is another person that's been on our show, other than Hana Hate, who plays Molly. Someone else who's been on Curzon. I guess we could have started the Curzons from the very beginning, but we never really established that one. I think Melissa knows.
Yes, it's Shakar.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
This isn't
Oh,
Shakar's.
yeah.
Who's
Was he
baby is
mentioned?
it?
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
He was mentioned by name? Oh, crap.
Yeah,
Okay.
when Oda was talking to the
Oh, yeah.
founders.
Right.
Shakar.
Mhm.
Oh gosh, I feel like the founder like reaches new heights of like a little bit of creepy.
Hey, you know what? They brought up an interesting point in that particular scene because Odo says, "How did you know that Kira fell in love with Shakar?" Right?
Mhm.
Basically, they have spies on DS9. And they have to, right, in order to know that.
Or it's their mind game.
Or on Bayshore and on
And they
Bayshore.
saw it in like
Or on
Celebrity
Bayshore, right? Or they just watched the Interstellar.
Yeah, just watch TV.
Like, so funny.
They're like, Kira, what?
Being up with a Kardashian.
So maybe you guys can help us out, and you're probably all going to roll your eyes at this, but Cirroc and I are still trying desperately to name that phenomena of how Star Trek names things, because we had 2 of them again, and we want to categorize these things. We have NAMs, non-appearance mentions, but we had 2 of them. There was Incarian wool, and what was the other one, Cirroc?
The diamonds.
Right, phalangian diamonds. Was it
Yeah.
phalangian? Because that's
No way. I
fingers.
feel like I would have noticed that.
It's fingers.
It's phalangian. I remember that. Yeah.
Diamonds.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
believe
it is.
was.
It is phalangian diamonds. Yeah, I wrote it.
Yeah.
down. So that's peculiar, but so we're getting close because Cirroc suggested that the name of this thing should be in the same vein of what they do. They say phalangian diamonds or Incarian wool or Alvanian beetle, right? So we're saying maybe it should be like Trekian
Oh, that's funny.
names, but that seems a little too generic. So maybe like Trekian gnomers or Trekian.
Hashtagging.
What do you guys think?
I don't know. I think the people that do the Star Trek names are the same ones that name some of these drugs out here. I'm like,
Molly.
whoa.
Quite
Call
literally.
everything Molly. Yeah.
You mean prescription drugs
Yeah.
or street drugs?
No, I'm talking about, you see the pharmaceutical, they'll say
Oh.
this and this. And I'm
Yeah.
like, who the hell came up with that?
Yeah. Ass effects. You're like, ass effects? is that really what you want to call it?
Sounds fun.
I don't think all these words necessarily go together as where they came from, but I think it could be an exo-tyranno-mo.
Ooh.
Is that a dinosaur?
So you have exo,
Exo is
which
out.
is
I hear it
outside,
Trump.
That's it.
and Terran, of course, is earth, and mo is French for word.
Oh, MOT.
So outside earth word.
Oh, exoterrenimal.
We can work with it. Maybe we'll let's workshop it. Let's workshop it. See what we come up with.
Jake,
Yeah.
Cirroc, I was waiting for you to be like Jake doing the Odo thing, going, huh?
Oh my gosh.
But I like that.
It's original. I think it's original.
Take it on board. It's not the final solution, but we can work with it.
It's workable.
What's another word for words or names?
Lexicon.
Yeah, lexicon.
Biblio.
Palabra.
Okay, vocab.
I was thinking palabra.
Okay, so
Yeah, this
keep-
is going to take a lot more.
we'll keep workshopping it.
Yeah. We could actually use a dictionary too if we wanted to get crazy.
Yeah, thesaurus. Let's see.
Oh boy.
Well, while I'm looking up in the thesaurus, Homer, do you have any thoughts on this episode that the rest of the team can discuss?
Well, I have to be honest. I haven't
great.
finished rewatching the entire thing. So I got to the point where the founder, Salome Jens, is in the hospital, not hospital, but where Odo, is sort of convalescing or whatnot. And they do the sort of like the handshake thing. And she was just really not nice to Bashir. And I thought that was uncool.
Or that Jemadar.
I know, very much. Yeah. So,
See her true
and I
colors.
wonder why wasn't there a Vorta? Because I think that the Jem'Hadar,
She just needs
I like to
muscle.
see more Jeffrey Combs, I guess.
Yeah, I think she yeah, it seems like they don't like to be around the border that much, even though they helped create them. They think they're annoying.
Well,
Later on, when you see the founders with the Vorta, they're always so annoyed by them.
Well, and
Ridiculous.
in this situation, it was more about security rather than negotiation or middlemen.
yeah. And then the other thing I'm just wondering what the Jem'Hadar did to O'Brien on the bridge of the Defiant.
Yes.
Did he grab him by
Yes.
his chest hair? Or
Yes,
what?
A
Right,
plus.
That's what Ryan says. I
like-
didn't get it either.
Yeah.
Well, and they go, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "I've been better," but never
It's like-
said what.
Yeah.
The dude has been through a lot.
Very good.
Thinking
Homer,
That's
yeah.
a Star Trek energy bolt.
I don't know.
They
Yeah.
must
So-
have really strong fingers.
So we found,
Yeah.
I found, I think possibly the perfect word, at least the word that I was trying to come up with, which is what is the word for the study of naming things or the act of naming things? And it's nomenclature. So it'd be
Oh, yeah.
Trekkian nomenclature.
Oh, like when Data
There it
owed
is.
the spot.
Oh,
What?
Nomenclature's in that poem.
When
Beautiful poem.
when Data does what?
Ode the spot.
Oh, the spot.
oh, just-
Beautiful cat poetry.
Oh,
It comes
yeah,
up in biology a ton too.
I like that.
Maybe,
I think my answer was a bit more universal and not specifically related to Trek, but that's fine.
your word was very artistic. and
Actually, it does work.
creative.
Exoterran is, yeah, that sounds good.
That's
Yeah.
how you that's the name used for talking about different species and stuff. So it sort of does fit. But so usually I watch the episodes like multiple running in a row. And today I just happened to watch just this one. And it's so funny because how many times does Worf give a suggestion like unasked?
Yes.
And then everybody ignores it and just keeps talking.
Yeah.
He did it. He did it.
Awful. And he does it like every scene. So it like really jumps out. It was so funny.
Well, and on the bridge today, all he said was, "Sir." And Sisko was like, "Not now, Mr. Worf." And I got this
He did it
flashback
like 4 times.
from Next Generation when they were always shooting him down.
They're getting like even more ridiculous. Like, tell him Cardassian spies are not allowed. Like, like, oh, thanks for that idea, Worf. And then everybody just ignores it and keeps talking.
And
he does
everybody
it
ignores
and over.
that.
So
He just
funny.
wants to eject the warp core. That's all he wants to do.
It's so funny that, like at some point Sisko is like, I'm not asking for suggestions because it just like keeps happening in this episode like really quickly, one after the other. It's so funny.
You're right.
I think we should ask
And his ideas
maybe
get worse and
bombast,
worse.
blast Robert Hewitt on Twitter. What do you call it when you guys made up these names?
His Twitter. So
What did
fun.
they call it? Yeah, what did they call it?
Yeah.
What was their in-house name for that?
Yeah. What the writer's room was like, okay,
Yeah.
come up with such and such. And what
Some nonsensical adjective.
It might be word bashing, just like in making up ships, it's kit bashing.
Oh, I didn't know about
Mashing?
that.
Word bashing.
Take the pieces, smash them together. It's used a lot of miniature gaming too. Like when you take an arm from one
I have a
character.
question. There was a moment in this when they were talking about the Phalangian diamonds. Odo was like trying to catch her. He's like, "Oh, I got you now. Last time you were smuggling diamonds and this and that." What was that alien? She was really
Good question.
nice. She was really pretty, and she had colorful hair and kind of exotic facial features.
It's like crazy. They bring her back like a few times, even though she's never like an integral part. It's impressive they have that kind of continuity.
Was
Yeah.
she the alien that one time, like maybe a season ago, she was standing up on the second level of the promenade and looking down on, I think maybe Jake, Sisko or something, and it just kind of showed her watching, but it never actually panned out to her doing anything. Maybe she passed the information on to a Romulan or some other alien that actually did something, but we just watched her looking down, if I
I
remember
thought
correctly.
she's the one who sells them the baby. Wasn't she the one who sold the baby Jem'Hadar? She did something like that. I thought there was like a deal in the cargo bay with her before and Quark, but I don't remember which episode. I was kind of thinking it was season 1 because I thought I remembered Aaron like liking her purple hair, but maybe
Yeah. So, you may be right, because I'm checking, and she was in 2 other episodes, one of which was The Abandoned. And was that the Jem'Hadar
Yes.
one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Oh,
And the
that
other one
was-
was The Homecoming. And I think that may be the one, maybe the one I was thinking of. But yeah, The Abandoned, you got it.
Very good
Oh,
knowledge.
snap.
actually.
Nice recall.
it's because in addition to live chats, I also listen when I get my nails done. There's nothing else to do except like I'll be like giggling out loud and they look at me like I'm crazy.
What
But
is
what kind of alien was she? Did you find that out?
Memory alpha that bitch.
I don't think she has anything specific.
let's see.
Okay. I thought it was funny in that scene because Odo, he's like, "Yeah, I caught you. You know,
He's the
you're a Phalangian
worst.
diamond," and
Okay.
then he melts into a puddle.
She doesn't
You're
call
wrong.
anybody. Like how
And then he
how
sees his
awful.
hand coming out in a puddle, like, "Help me!"
It's so cold though. She's just like, oh,
Yeah.
he needs some. She doesn't even call anybody. She's just like, oh,
Yeah, she didn't
perfect.
call anybody.
Let's
She's
go.
like, "Let's get out of here."
Man,
The
what a
career
bad
criminal
couple.
right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
she was out.
So she is a Boslick.
Oh, okay.
Oh, actually, I think I knew that. Oh, and then the other fun person. Did you guys already talk about Arroya and how she was in TNG in one of my favorite episodes, The Royale?
No, we did not, but stay tuned for that. First, I want to know, Anne Marie, what has made you laugh the hardest while you were getting your
Oh,
nails
that's
done?
so easy.
Uh-oh.
when When that rat was in the cargo bay, and Cirroc was like, that rat was such a good actor. So, and you guys
That's a
were
really
talking
good
about it
actor.
so seriously. It was so funny.
Oh yes, the rat actor.
That was great.
Okay. Excellent answer. So please continue about, and no, we didn't cover that actress, and you're saying that she was also in Next Generation, yeah?
In the Royale, and she's like at the craps table with Data, and she's Texas's date. I love her. And recently I saw someone do a deep cut of her on Twitter where she's like rolling a dice or something, and then she says, yeah, it's really fun. My
Sounds
favorite
it.
gif. Mhm. I love that
Yeah.
episode so much.
Melissa,
Yeah.
any thoughts on that, Melissa?
None.
Royale's awesome.
Oh,
Oh,
I think the rat was a good actor too.
So funny.
thank you.
I'm gonna look that rat up on IMDb.
I think Cirroc said the same thing.
Still in the business.
He literally looked
Or
at the
like-
camera and gave full face to the camera. Good
Yeah.
expression.
He
Like,
found
are
his light, you know?
descendants also that good.
Yeah.
He found the light. He hit the mark.
Mhm.
I mean,
No.
Not everyone can do that.
Not everybody can do that.
Oh my god.
I've seen people not be able to do that. So
Yeah.
that rat was impressive.
Same.
Pro.
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 Well, also shout out to our good friend, Mr. Don Crandall, who has rats and on purpose. And he loves them and cares for them and teaches us that they only live to be about 2 years old, generally speaking. So pick up your local rat and adopt them and see if you could train them to find their light. And,
Remember their lives.
yeah,
Become their agent.
they're real sweet. They're real
Well,
sweet.
Anne Marie would probably know this. I remember at 2 a.m. walking through Hell's Kitchen, and it must have been
Oh.
trash day. And all of a sudden, these huge rats run over my feet.
gross.
I'm in dress
Oh.
blues, and I'm like, "What the heck was that?"
You can feel
And then
it.
there was more comment. I'm like,
Dude, I always see them like
You can
running
hear
around
them
right
running.
on the Upper East Side.
Yep.
So like
Ugh.
luckily not as much down here anymore. But oh,
"Oh, it was
they're
it,
huge.
it was an education."
It's
It's
like
like
Master
I'm like,
Splinter size.
Exactly.
And
like
of
Master
course-
Splinter.
I was probably 3 sheets to the wind at the same time. So I'm like,
Oh. Does
Well,
that
you
make
know,
it
when
better
you're-
or worse? I don't know.
when you're a sailor on Liberty in New York, it's kind of a given. So
Yeah, you have to.
There was another
Yeah.
thing that in this episode, and I don't know why that reminded me of it, but it kind of jumped out at me during the episode when Bashir checks Odo's blood. And he says, "Oh, it's real blood." And then he just goes, "Type O negative." And I was like, "Yeah,
Dude,
dude."
I was like, how did the founders know so like such teeny little particulars that they're able to emulate it? Like sometimes I have a
Well,
What's
little
the
bit hard.
significance of type O negative?
It's just a
Universal
band.
donor.
It's a band.
Oh.
It's just like which
It's a metal, some like black metal band.
it's so
Oh,
who's
goth
compatible
stuff.
for like blood transfusions and stuff.
it's
Yep.
the
But-
universal
Yes.
recipient
For
or
the-
universal donor. Yeah.
Donor.
And then positive or negative has to do with like RH factor, and then like it's especially used for moms and how to determine what kind of blood to give to them for transfusions. But like
I don't know. I think my theories, I think they chose it for the band.
I just can't believe the founders knew that. It's crazy.
It was a 90s band. You never know, but you're probably right.
Well,
I think it's
that
such
was
a
one of
great
the
cliffhanger.
Mhm.
So
one of the things that made Afghanistan real is you had to wear a headband around your helmet that had your blood type on it.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
That's real.
That's pretty
I
real.
feel like it's a really like true to life war movie or so when they include that on the soldier somewhere in different countries do it different ways.
Yeah, some wear it on their uniform.
Like
We wore it
great
around
attention
our
to
helmet.
detail.
On a dog
Uh,
tags too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on your dog tags.
Yeah.
It's also a lot of people will put a dog tag in each boot.
Oh,
So they find a leg, they know who it goes to, is what it basically comes down to. So Sorry to down the conversation. Let's get back to the episode.
Well, does anybody else have anything to add about this episode? There was a lot of really good stuff. There were some funny moments in there, like when Bashir is about to skip the rock in the Great Link. That was funny. It was a moment I had forgotten.
Ow, 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 ow.
They throw it back at him.
Every time it skips, they go,
I was just like so touched by Sisko though, like wanting to go down with Odo. It's just such a sweet moment.
Yeah.
Says so much.
I wanted to bring up, we did it before taping. Odo does the same patrol every day at the same time. It's a wonder there isn't a crime wave on Deep Space Nine.
Right.
Man, I'll look out for you.
It's like, okay, 913 is passed. We can hit this place because he's down there.
Yeah.
It's like a couple yards behind them.
You never know when he's the rat.
I like how Quark has his smuggling percentages already calculated. Smuggling.
Oh my God.
60%. It's like Vegas calculating the odds. You know who's going to win a championship or something. It's like, 60% increase.
And so sweet.
Yeah, I thought it was sweet. It was very much I'm going to miss you, but oh yeah, of course you'll be back.
Mhm.
And I'm
nice.
going to take advantage, but I want you to come back. So
Yeah.
I love Deep Space Nine. It's so good.
You know, Odo would lose his ability to be such an enforcer as a security officer by being human, right? Like, I'm sure that takes away his big power.
Yeah, his physicality at least. Yeah.
Yeah, he can no longer shapeshift. He can no longer, punch people in all different directions and do whatever he wants. Yeah, so he's now basically just as vulnerable as any one of us, right?
Mm-hmm. Or like
So-
his energy level, because it seems like he's constantly working, except for like every 17 hours or whatever. We don't really know
Yeah.
how long he has
Right.
to be
How long does he
liquid.
have to regenerate? Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
But
you know what?
I'm like, can he keep that intensity up as like just a mere mortal?
Also, and you're a doctor here, Marie Segal, so maybe you can better answer this question. But my first thought is, if he's born or suddenly,
Does he have a belly button?
if he's just suddenly flushed out
He doesn't.
with this body that he's never used, right? How does he have the use of his arms and limbs, like the
Coordination.
coordination?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, how is
Worked
he
in Little
like,
Mermaid.
like he's just going like, he's just like, how do I use my muscles? How does this all work? He's never done this before.
We don't think about using muscle. He's watched everybody do it.
Yeah, but
Just downloaded all that muscle memory into his brain.
Well, also like in the next few episodes, spoiler alert, they kind of start talking about it where he's going to Dr. Bashir constantly, like,
Because he falls down all the time.
yeah, or like he's sitting up too straight and strains his back muscles. And like, I love that Deep Space Nine has that attention to detail and is gonna, touch on it. I think all of it's amazing.
Okay, good. I feel
Yeah,
better.
but even babies have to learn motor skills, and they're
Right.
born with their limbs. But I guess he's already got an idea of how they're supposed to work.
Maybe he
Well, we
kind
just
of
missed the
Astronauts have to
end.
learn
like
everything.
baby cow getting up for the first time when he got out of the link.
It was just an unfilmed episode. That's all it was. We just
Yeah.
missed it. It was just
Oh,
Odo
but
falling
it's-
down.
It's just amazing and mind-blowing, like in this episode, like how did they fit all of this in 43 minutes? And it's
Yeah.
such a great episode.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap, that's like magic.
Right. The
I-
amount that they were setting it up made it feel like it was going to be a two-parter because they were just setting up so much. What were you saying, Cirroc?
No, I have to agree with you that they squeezed a lot into such a short amount of time. That's why I felt like it went by fast when I was watching it. But I also want to say that I was expecting Odo to have a different approach with the Bajoran girl at the end when he actually was a human. Because in the beginning, as a changeling, he's like, "Oh, you're boring me with these human customs of courtship and approaching, and you guys waste time with women." Essentially, but now that he would be a human, you would think that his interest would be a little bit different, and he would have changed his mind about that, because now he experiences things like hunger and fatigue and everything else.
And everything else.
And
Do you-
the track
do you-
Outfit wasn't that cute.
Do you mean he's actually,
It wasn't
in addition,
that cute, no.
Like she was a little bit full of herself.
Oh,
Well, I'm-
okay.
but
Okay.
you get a
Meow.
libido as well as all the organs? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so all of a sudden
Yeah.
it clicks
Yeah,
where it didn't before.
it's like, oh, what is that? You know,
I
like,
wondered about that because he seemed to have one before
Attraction-
too.
His tastes have changed as far as
Right.
who he's attracted to. Maybe he's just not attracted to her.
that's true too. No, that's true.
She
was
But I
Homer-
just feel, I
He
just
likes
feel like he would
brunettes.
understand it a little bit more. You know, he would be like, I don't know, just a little bit different about his approach now. He's not so robotic about it.
Homer and Scott, do you guys want to break this tie? What do you think? Was she a little full of herself? Was that outfit no good, or should Odo go for it?
Go ahead, Scott.
I mean, I don't know. He's fresh out of the oven, essentially. You know, it was like his first shot. So as a solid. So I don't know. I've made a lot of mistakes with women in my life, so I'm probably not
Not the best.
qualified to. Yeah, not the best person. Go for it, Odo, from the background. Or yeah, I don't
I'm
know.
like super intrigued by Garrick's dating service now.
Dating service.
See,
Yeah,
I think Garrick is a great judge of
Amazing.
character because he, knows how to torture people and everything like that. So I would probably take his advice. I'd ask him what to do.
It's
See what
just
you
like
think.
so sweet that he was doing that. I just love everybody's so multidimensional in this episode, and it's really like paying off like all the seasons preceding of
Okay.
building everyone up.
That sets us up for our question before we go. What was the sweeter moment, the sweeter gesture? Was it when Garrick hooks up Odo kind of twice there? Was it when Quark says, basically says, so you'll be back, make sure that you come back? Or was it when Kira brings him the criminal activity report in
Oh
bed?
my god, they're all those ways.
What do you think, Tim? What was the sweetest moment? What was the sweetest gesture?
Between Odo and Quark. It's the actors, the looks on their face were like, we are adversaries, but we're also very close. So it's like, I know you're going to take advantage when I'm gone. And Quark's going like, I know you're going to bust my chops when you get back, but that's been our song and dance for the last few years, and it continued to be. So that, to me, that was the sweetest moment.
Yeah. What do you think, Malissa?
I'm going to say Kira, obviously, and Odo, because it's very thoughtful of her. And who else would know that he would appreciate the criminal activities report instead of being fawned over and all this sympathy? So, I mean, it was very thoughtful in knowing that it's something that he would actually enjoy or get something out of.
Yeah, it's better than flowers.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, Anne-Marie?
I really don't know. They're all so good. But like my favorite, just intriguing wise, is Garrett trying to hook Odo up. I think that's such a fun storyline that I want to see so much more of. But obviously the other two are just so adorable and lovely. It's just that we already know everything about.
So you say Garrick, huh? That's one for everybody so far. What do you think, Scott? Oh boy, it's heating up.
I would instinctively, I would probably have to say Kira because of just where she's come from and all the stuff that she's been through, and the fact that she was just automatically, I know how to fix this right away. Just giving him that report was very matter of fact and as quickly as possible. Or Garrick, again, I know I just praised him, but why is he trying to?
Well, probably he's like noticed like Quark that
And-
Odo's lonely and likes Kira, and he's trying to help. But
get to that quicker than 2 more seasons that it takes. But then I also I'm a softie since I first watched the show for the Odo Quark dynamic as well, so it's really hard. But I would probably say I'll probably go with Kira though overall.
gosh, I know,
All
I'm such
right,
a Kira
for sure.
Odo shipper.
Homer,
Yes.
it's heating up here. What do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty hot. I want to mention
Deliveries.
it's an honorable mention, one that you haven't talked about, and he was doing it because he had to, and it was Garrick telling Odo stories to distract him. But as far as my official weigh-in of the three, it's Quark, Odo, and it's because of all the subtext. Like neither one said what they actually meant, but you could tell there was something there, and you could tell the meaning.
Spark.
Oh crap! We also
Sort of, yeah.
Great link too. There are just so many.
We're just going to pick a top 10, man.
Boy,
Not all.
what do you think, Cirroc?
Well, I'm going to add one that also wasn't mentioned, and that's the Sisko making the decision to basically escort Odo himself down there. I think that was what Worf's objection was when she said, "We're going to scramble your system. You won't know where we're going, and we're going to take you there." And I think Worf was objecting, like, "Sir, I don't think you should do that, right?"
Yeah, but then like wasn't Picard? It's just like he's like a Great Link Chadich, which is like what Picard did for Worf. So
Chadich.
Yeah. I just
It's
felt
not
like
like
Sisko really was willing to go all out. Like he's really basically putting his life on the line. He doesn't know what he's facing when he gets down to the planet's surface or when he gives up the control of the Defiant. So to me, it's like he's actually literally risking something to show that he cares.
so beautiful.
Wow, Tuffy.
I love Captain moments like that.
So it sounds like Kira and Garrick are Kira and Quark were the ones with two. I can't break the tie because those are it's between those two for me too. I thought that, the subtext was like perfect with with Quark and Odo. The subtext in there was like really well written, but as we talked about earlier in the episode, I thought that tiny little moment with Kira was so smartly written, and it was small, it was quick, and there wasn't a lot of flair to it, but I thought it was very, it was expertly written. But this kind of stuff was all over this entire episode. There was the Sisko moments. There was, you're right. Also Homer with Garrick, telling all these stories, and doing all that, but he's
Epic
also
stories.
doing it out of love. He's doing it for fun because he loves screwing with people, but he's also doing it out of love. But there's so many great moments,
I want to give a little director shout out for Les in the moment where Kira gives the pad to Odo. And in that moment, he decided to keep them both in one shot. Odo's on the bed, Kira's behind him. And the way the scene played out, Odo's not really facing Kira. He's facing the camera. She's facing the camera. And you got a real good moment where she's kind of behind him in the background, registering how much it means to him. So you get two people's faces. They're not looking at each other, but you can see their expressions. And I thought that was just as a director's choice in that exact moment highlighted the intimacy of that moment. I liked it.
Totally. That allows the audience to see that Kira's thinking that's all the thanks I need. Watching him sit up and do that, and we see her, that's all the thanks she needs, is seeing that he was happy with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also it's like one of those ones where it actually makes sense. Like they do it a lot, it seems like in Voyager, where they'll show like people, like the same kind of blocking. But in this one, it actually makes sense because of course, like Odo doesn't really want to be facing her and her to like see exactly what he's going through. This whole episode's so good.
Proud. Yep.
And it's walk down the promenade. Oh my God, I love it all.
Oh yeah, the walk to the promenade was also another moment because I think Bashir says, "Do you want me to clear the promenade? Like, do you want me to get rid of everybody so they don't have to see you in this condition?" And he kind of, he shows his humility there and takes the walk.
Love it.
All right.
Special moment.
Well, I think we did it, you guys.
No, I don't want to keep going through seasons so fast.
I know.
Gotta
I
pace
know.
this differently.
Slow it down.
Yeah, I know. I think our roundtable should definitely kind of close the book on season 4. We can talk about that because it's really good season, really good stuff. Anyway, thank you all very much for joining us, Anne-Marie, Tim, Melissa, Scott, and Homer, for Cirroc, Lofton, and Odyssey Radio, and myself, and the coolest guy in any quadrant, Aaron Eisenberg. We thank you all, and always remember the 7th rule.